There are three elements behind the design: accelerated academics, ownership and personalization, and awesomely powerful community. And these are three design anchors that we continually revisited when we were trying to construct the actual design of the model. And sometimes that those all work in harmony, and sometimes they're in tension with each other. For example, if you're creating a program that has really accelerated academics and you feel there are certain core content that's necessary for all students to have, but you also have personalization and ownership on the other side, what's the right intersection between how much choice students should have in any given academic class versus having a core academic program? Same thing with awesomely powerful community. We want to make sure that we are building an amazingly supportive space where everybody feels like they're on the same page and they're working together to support students. One of the lessons we've learned is that students are really excited and motivated by self-directed learning. Students also need more support than we initially imagined when we set up self-directed learning. So at the beginning, we had a model where students were given a set of assignments, very similar to a college syllabus, where you would have a number of action steps that were due at the end of the week or at the end of the month. And students had a set of time in the day where they would plan their time and figure out, how am I going to use my time on Monday and my time on Tuesday and my time on Wednesday in order to get to these goals that I have at the end of the week or the end of the month. And what we realized was that students needed a lot more structure initially to be successful in self-directed learning. And so we made some adjustments to the model so that instead of having one open space where you worked on your self-directed math and your self-directed science and your self-directed humanities, you had a dedicated space each day, a dedicated space for self-directed math, a dedicated space for humanities, a dedicated space for science. And rather than setting a range of differentiated targets that varied by subject in terms of their duration and their frequency, we adjusted it so that you had a set amount or a set target for the minimum bar that you would complete each week. And so the addition of having a dedicated space for your math and a consistent goal for what you would accomplish in a given week as the minimum pace really helped provide a baseline layer of scaffolding for students to be successful in SDL. And we imagine that over time, we will remove these scaffolds one by one to the point where students are entering high school able to say, I've got 5 hours of unstructured work time this week. I have a set of 4 goals. How am I going to plan my time to get there? But we realized we needed a lot more scaffolding to make that happen. The type of support that you need to provide to students who are working in self-directed learning actually looks quite different from the type of support that you might in a more traditional classroom. And teachers, when they enter a self-directed learning space, have often have a more traditional paradigm of what it looks like to be teaching students. And so we found that sometimes there's a pull back to more whole class instruction. And we found that sometimes the key things that teachers are looking for in coaching on are a little bit different in self-directed learning. So for example, in self-directed learning, we want to make sure that we're coaching students' ability to learn the content, students' ability to comprehend independently, and then student motivation and self-regulation. And so when we're circulating, we're not just looking for, do you have the right answer? We're looking for, do you have the skills to acquire that information on your own? Do you have the motivation and the drive to make that happen? Do you see why this is relevant and important to your hopes and aspirations? And are you actually learning the content? And so if a student is struggling, actually a series of things that we're asking ourselves to make sure that we're understanding where that motivation is breaking down so that we can ensure that we're coaching students on the right things. I think another lesson that we've learned is that while all of the pieces of the model intentionally work together to drive towards our four main outcomes, it's a lot of change. And it's a lot for teachers to internalize. And so at the beginning of the year, when you're learning self-directed learning and learning how to lead a goal team and learning a new curriculum, it can be a lot to digest. We did not anticipate the level of guidance and support and sort of the runway that students were going to need to fully get on board with self-directed learning. And we had initial lessons on how to approach a study guide, how to tackle a module, how to study, how to take notes. But there so many new pieces for students that it felt overwhelming at first. And so, at the beginning, we had to make a lot of changes to the structure of the day, the structure of the block, how students were being supported. In some cases, that they were more moderate, and in some cases, more significant overhauls to the curriculum. And we even had instances where students would raise their hand and they would say, I'm not really sure. Like, I understand what this piece is asking me. Like, it's talking about Michelangelo, and Leonardo da Vinci, but I only see an example from da Vinci, not an example from Michelangelo. What do I do? And so in some of those cases, we actually on the fly, real time adjusted some of the content in the content modules. And I remember one moment where one of our students said, "The text is changing." And I said, "Well, yeah, you said it was unclear, and so we're making it clearer because you gave really good feedback, and we want other students to be successful with it." And the student looked and said, "You can do that?" I said, "Yeah, we're all learning this together, and we're going to figure it out." I think that was a good moment for us because we had to iterate real time to make sure that everything was working and clear enough for kids. And I think some of our initial self-directed learning was too inferential and in some places not explicit enough. And I think it was also really validating for students to know, hey, I'm part of this new thing and people are listening to me and taking my feedback to help make it better. And I really don't think that we could have gotten to the point that we've gotten to today had it not been for that really deep embedded side by side with students and teachers and families and sort of figuring it out with them, as we went.